So this is the infamous Seth Boyding projects of Newark. I lived here when I was 7 years old until I turned 18 is when I officially moved out of the neighborhood. And as you can see, it's pretty boarded up here. Nothing much left here outside of just the building itself, the structure itself. Some graffiti, which is due to displacement, no one living here. This is the neighborhood I grew up in. After I was taken away from my family, they brought me down here to be raised in this neighborhood. Even today, you can see there is the community is blocked off to the public due to the violence that still occurs or still happens in the neighborhood. I think most recently someone was killed, shot in the head. So when I was 7 years old, when I was displaced, I was taken away from my birth mother and put into foster care, which, the neighborhood we're in right now. Me and my brother, we were displaced and put into the neighborhood again. And the reason and rationale we were displaced was because, according to the records, my mother's drug and father's drug usage. And so we became a warden of the state. Thereafter, about, I would say 4 or 5 months later, I was up for adoption in the state, and my brother and I were adopted at the age of 7 years old. It's interesting because I still see people out here right now as we're driving that I grew up with. What's good with you? Same number. Hit me up. Folks really, so one of the neighborhood drug dealers. And so when my brothers and sisters were taken away on record, actually, I just want to stop real quick. This is part of like the displacement piece. When I was younger, I was sexually assaulted by a young lady, and she actually was just on the corner right now. Normally I stop and say hi to her, but part of the sexual abuse from her was someone had sexually abused her, and so she did, I think what she only knew was to engage in that activity. And so normally when I come down to the neighborhood, I stop and speak to her, but today I think I'll just keep it moving. But displacement brought upon a lot of like pain and anguish and depression and suicidal thoughts as a child, always fighting because I didn't know why I was taken away outside of drug usage. And I used to see people in my neighborhood use drugs all the time. And so it was normal to me. And so we were displaced. Again, like I said before, I was sexually abused due to the displacement. I don't think I would have been sexually abused if I would have stayed with my mother. I don't see an avenue in which that would have happened, but we never know. But we know the facts is like when I was younger, that happened to me, which created a cycle of me treating women badly, only using them or seeing them as like abusers and not people who are loving. So I always viewed women really strange. Even as an adult, I'm cautious around certain women, and so I try to treat them with respect because I know that the person that molested me, they were harmed, and I don't want to do any harm to women that I engage with. Yeah, so I was impacted by the sexual assault, but I think my overall family was impacted. My sister would run away from foster care. My brothers were killed because of the displacement. Because there were no services provided for them. No one came and said, hey, mother of Solomon and the rest of you guys, we want to provide clinical services to treat your illness. Instead, they just took us away. I remember when we were taken away from DIFUS. At the time it was called DIFUS in New Jersey, and they took us to the main office, and they washed us up in little basins, the same basins you would either like soak your feet in or do dishes out of, and they washed us up and they just shipped us out. And so the effect of displacement, it ran through the entire family, not knowing your relatives. I remember a time when I finally was able to meet my sister through a connection of a friend, not knowing what she looked like. I walked right by her. It was the craziest thing. We walked right by each other and we're like texting each other on the phone saying, hey, was that you that I just walked by? Because we weren't sure. But ultimately, if we would have had services, clinical services, non-traditional services that really benefited our family, I think a lot of the stuff that happened, I'm thinking about, again, my brothers being killed. I'm thinking about my abuse. I think about my younger brother who... Yeah, man, he's lost in the sauce. How we would say that, he's lost in the sauce. Providing him services so that he had a better outcome in life. Oh man. So yeah, those are some of the effects of the displacement and on this idea of the war on drugs and this impact it had on me, my family, and just our community as a whole. So there were initial services from DIFUS where they would come and visit, I think once a month, make sure you have food and clean underwear and clean socks, and that your linen, your bedroom linen was clean. And after we were, I want to say about 10 years old, at least I was 10, my brother was 8, they stopped showing up. All services stopped. I don't never remember going to any therapeutic services as a child. It just all services stopped, and I think the only thing that continued was like a monthly stipend for my foster parent or my adoptive mother. So there was no services that continued. And so I guess I always wonder, like, how did I make it through? I think it's a combination of a lot of support from outside people that shaped the way my outcome in life. I had a lot of men. I always say I never had a father growing up. My father was, again, not in my life because of displacement. But it was a lot of men who showed me like I can take a lot of options, either good or bad. And ultimately the good options outweigh the bad options. And so I was lucky enough to choose right? To choose the good decision, the good path that led me, or, the reason why I'm here today. I couldn't have did it without those men. And I think even me not fully trusting women to do right by me, I think I also had a combination of solid women in my life that taught me, like, this is what it looks like to be a man and how you're supposed to treat a woman. And so the way I made it out of displacement was a community of care that allowed me to transition from what seemed like a hopeless journey to a prosperous life. Yeah, I think what I want people to know when they think about the war on drugs I want people to really think about and know the effect that it has on other people, or what they would say the unintended consequences of your personal war on drugs